Warning: this story is completely fictional, and the events that occur in it do not call for action. All coincidences with real persons are coincidental. I have been carrying this burden for 10 years, and now I don't even know who I punished with my deed, my ex-wife and her lover, or myself. To get a better insight into the situation and my inner world, I will first tell you about myself. I was born in a family with high moral principles, and from childhood my parents taught me to be honest, fair, and decent. To my luck, I was comprehensively developed in absolutely all spheres. I studied the annual curriculum in a few months, was actively engaged in sports, and by the age of 17 became a master of sports in boxing, had a photographic memory, and much more. It was said about me that I was one of a kind. I did not attend classes much, and in turn, by that time I already had a shop and was earning good money. All spheres of activity were easy for me, and since several generations of my family were engaged in the construction industry, I decided to continue the dynasty and open my own company in parallel studying at the Institute by correspondence. And by the age of 18, I already have my own apartment and company, and about the same time, I met my first love and later felt the pain of betrayal. After living 1 year in a relationship in my apartment, she cheated on me. But my only excuse was that we are not married and she doesn't see anything wrong with it before marriage. I don't forgive betrayal. I have always been calm and kept all emotions coldly inside, and I was the only one who knew what was going on inside me. Although this was the beginning of my inner fracture, I will not focus on it. Time passed, the business flourished, grew, and I, in turn, changed women like gloves, while setting a goal to study absolutely everything about them: psychology, manners of behavior, character, habits, and so on. And by the age of 26, I could easily identify cheating, lies, and the very essence of the partner. Along the way, meeting with many girls, I became increasingly convinced that no one deserves trust. I tried, yes, absolutely, in all seriousness, tried to find the one who will become my soulmate. But there were only those who were with me for money, or who do not need family relations, or simply betrayed. But time passed, and I wanted a family. And then it hit me. I remembered the first pain of betrayal and realized that I was looking for the wrong one, that I should look for one who had experienced the same. And from now on, I changed tactics and began to visit places, as it seemed to me at the time, suitable for the search: parks, waterfronts, and so on, places that I myself had gone to when I felt bad. And I found what seemed to me at the time. Her name was Caitlyn. She was 6 years younger than me, so she was 22. We got to know each other, and after a few meetings she told me absolutely everything about herself. She was from an orphanage and had no parents. We dated for a long time, but I never invited her to my place. Over time, I realized that I had awakened those long-forgotten feelings in me. I fell in love and felt that everything was mutual. One day we met at the same place where we met, and I proposed to her. Her happiness was unbelievable, and after the consent I told her the news that I was quite a successful man, which finally elevated me in her eyes. I'll skip the platitudes: wedding, honeymoon, married life. And here we are, 7 years into our marriage at that point. I'll tell you, I've never been happier. Throughout I received affection, support, words of love, and vows of fidelity from my other half. I could not doubt her for a single minute. But how was I wrong? Let me preface this story with the appearance of the man who shattered my world. One day, 2 years before what happened, in a construction store, I overheard a conversation between two girls, one of whom asked for help finding another job in accounting. At the time, I was in need of an accountant for a firm, so I offered her a position, which she immediately accepted. It turned out that the girl, her name is Sophia, came with her husband Mark from Poland and became a very good worker. After a couple of months, I needed a designer on a permanent basis, and she asked her husband to try in this field. He is the reason. And having done trial 2 objects, he was hired. At the same time, I was in the process of building my cottage. A year passed. Everything was wonderful. I was satisfied with his work, and by this time our house was ready for the stage of interior design, and I entrusted this work, of course, to him. And since my beloved was burning desire to equip our nest, I let her lead it. And that was my biggest mistake. Here we came to the whole horrifying finale of this story. Periodically, my wife traveled to the house for 2-3 hours to discuss design issues with Mark. At first, periodically, and I drove up to them to make my edits or share my thoughts, but after I decided to fully trust these issues to my wife, nothing, not the slightest hint of her infidelity I did not notice. All this time, everything went as usual. Regular intimate life, caresses, declarations of love. Or maybe I just became blind at that moment. But one day I stopped by the house and found something that made me suspicious. I saw in one of the rooms upstairs on the floor a plaid spread out. At first I didn't even think of my wife's infidelity. I thought at first that while the house was empty, someone might come to stay overnight. And, not thinking long, went to the store and bought hidden surveillance cameras and installed in this room to later deal with the uninvited guest. I didn't tell my wife about it, so she wouldn't worry. Since I had a lot of work, I was able to get there only after a week, and what I saw on the tape tore my heart to pieces. My lovely wife and Mark were doing things that you don't see in the movies, and then she'd come home and act like everything that happened there was normal. But how? How could she do that to me? I mean, she opened up to me and told me how hard it was for her to get over the betrayal. It was the end of everything. It broke me inside. They say it's only one step from love to hate. I got in my car, and I wanted to end it all. And then my coolness woke up, backed only by my hatred. I realized it's not enough to just deal with them. I had to destroy them morally, make them unfit human beings. I became obsessed with revenge. During all this time, I made many friends working in completely different structures. I easily obtained everything I needed for my revenge. I'm not proud of it. At that point, I didn't care at all what happened to me. My world had been trampled. Everything I had been striving for had lost value to me. At that point, I didn't care what happened to me. My world has been trampled. Everything I'd strived for had lost its value to me. When I found out the next visit of my wife and Mark to our house, I packed the prepared things and went there to wait for them, hiding behind the attic door. A couple hours later, I could already hear the sounds of their lovemaking, and it didn't take me long to get there. What happened next would shock anyone. I became a soulless beast. The first thing I did was to knock Mark out with one punch to the screams of my beloved. She never imagined she'd see me like this. The second blow knocked her out. She didn't expect that, because I've never laid a hand on a woman. And now for the most horrifying part, my revenge. A surgeon I knew gave me strong painkillers, local anesthesia, and dressing materials for decontamination. I learned what to do on my own. I prepared Mark for the shocking surgery, and in one motion, I stripped him of his prick. My wife woke up when I had finished dressing and was connecting the catheter, but Caitlyn was looking at me, at the knife, at the part of Mark's body that she had liked so much an hour ago. She was terrified, and she obviously thought I wanted to kill her. So she begged me not to touch her. I only managed to squeeze out a look and pointed my finger at my lover. Honestly, my final plan was to plunge that knife into my heart after what I had done, leaving them to live in agony. But I chickened out. I sat there for about half an hour listening to her whimpering and his mumbling. And afterward, I called a friend who works in the organs in a good position and told him what I had done. I didn't care what happened next. I knew I would be punished. He came quickly, and not alone, but with 3 of our mutual friends, and before he could see me, he told one of them to take me home quickly and wait for his return. On arriving home, I could not understand anything at first, and why, after all I had done, my friend in the car was telling me that next week we were all going somewhere. Afterward, it all made sense. I will not tell you what happened to me in my soul and in my life for all the time before today. I'll just tell you what happened that day. When I arrived, one of my friends took Mark and accompanied him by train, taking him very far away, returning only 2 weeks later. He did not show exactly where he sent him, but only showed a video of Mark wandering around a bus stop in an inadequate state. The second friend took the video of my wife's adultery and went to Mark's wife, showing her that they had stolen a large sum of money from me and ran away. And the same friend from the organs took my wife to a psychiatric clinic, also in passing agreed with acquaintances about her arrangement there. Many people will condemn me, but a year later I did not regret what I had done. My friends helped me to get in my own direction, to get back on my feet. Here is my bottom line. I am alone as I can't trust any woman anymore. I have women in my life, but I don't have a family. My faith has been broken. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.